My name is Michele Matsikoudis, and I represent Legislative District 21. I grew up in Bayonne, New Jersey. I am a Hudson County girl, born and bred. It was a pretty typical neighborhood for Bayonne. We lived in a two-family house, and it was a multi-generational house. My parents and my brother and I lived on one floor. My grandmother and my grandfather was above me. And every Sunday afternoon, family and friends would come over, and we would sit down and have a beautiful Italian dinner. And it's something I've actually tried to carry forward in my own life. My parents are Rolene and Bernie Rouilloux. They both grew up in Bayonne, and they lived there their whole lives. My dad was a truck driver, and he was also a Navy veteran. And my mom worked in the insurance company. They were the type of people that couldn't do enough for others. And I do believe that's where I got my servant heart from. It's really about what you can do to be helpful with others. As a child, I was bullied by some of the kids, and it was a tough lesson. But what I ended up learning to do over time really was easy humor and laughing at myself, because that helped deflect some of that, and it helped me keep my confidence up and feel more in control of the situation. It's one of the things that's really made me the person that I am, because I always find that I go after the underdog, and I always want to help out to people that are undergoing big issues in their life. I went to a Catholic grammar school, an all-girls high school, and yes, an all-girls college. It's called Rosemont College. I graduated with a major in political science and a minor in business. At that time, I just wanted any job I could get, and my first job was at a municipal bond company. And I worked in the back office, and I literally took 2 pieces of paper and made sure that they matched exactly. That was how I got my start on Wall Street. I worked my way up through the back office. Ultimately, I got what I consider my dream job on Wall Street. I used to teach financial advisors how to sell municipal bonds. I ended up leaving it when I got pregnant with my twins. My husband's name is John. We met down at the Jersey Shore. We were dating 2 weeks, and he told me he loved me. It took me just a little bit longer. Not much, because when you know, you know. He was smart, but he was funny, and he was interested in other people. So it was a lot of the same core values and family values that I had. We have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. You know, you hear about that whole mama bear mentality. It came out in full force. During my second pregnancy, I was pregnant with twins. And what happened was, while I was carrying them, they thought that one of them was going to be really, really sick. I prayed a whole lot throughout the pregnancy. They were born, and immediately they got thrown into therapies like round the clock. At a very young age for them, I became an advocate. These beautiful little children need someone to take care of them, and because they're so fragile. That's really kind of helped shape who I've become, because I find that I'm very drawn to the most vulnerable. You know, it's part of one of my passions. For me, I was one of the lucky ones. My kids, they've just done so well. I'm just so grateful for all of it. And I'm just so grateful my husband and I both had the strength to stand up and advocate for them over the years as well. Public service for me was kind of thrust upon me. I had a lot of friends in town, and they were looking for a PTA president at the grammar school. What was funny about that was I'd never been to a PTA meeting. I always have a hard time saying no to things. So I ended up saying yes. And it was probably one of the best things that I did. When I look back over it and what we accomplished during that time, I was awfully proud of. We doubled the operating budget, and we put in a $50,000 playground, which still stands there to this day, and when I drive past it, I always have a nice smile on my face. So from there, I went on to our Ed Foundation. So I learned a lot about the inner workings of the schools and the teachers, so I had a pretty broad-based knowledge of what things look like on both sides, from the parents' angle and from the educator angle. During that whole time, the Republican committee in town kept calling me and asking me to run for office. I was an independent. I had not become part of a political party. And when I started really looking into what it meant to be a Republican, I realized that, fiscal responsibility, compassion, and helping others were all the values of that party, and that's really where I wanted to be. So I became part of the Republican Party. I decided finally to run for office. I became a councilwoman. I was councilwoman for a year. A spot opened up in the assembly, and I thought, well, gee, I've been advocating and helping. I wonder if I could actually help on a larger level. And that's when I threw my hat in the ring to run. The day that I got sworn in was probably one of the more emotional days for me. Standing on that stage and putting my hand on the Bible was really surreal. And I remember saying the oath and actually being on the verge of tears because the magnitude of what I was undertaking in a really good way, it overwhelmed me. Having the privilege and the honor, it means the world to me, and it's just not something that I take lightly. You don't really get to know something until you're actually on the inside. And what I find is that government needs to be streamlined in New Jersey, and it's not. Most of what I support, you will find, is a way of streamlining government and just really trying to do things and not just throwing money at a problem. You really want to look for other creative ways and measures to get things done. And streamlining is the first place that we should be looking. I believe that everyone is there for the right reasons, but I believe we have different ways of trying to get there. So trying to find out what our commonalities are is the way to get things done. So the best way to find out what people's commonalities are, or get to know them. Understanding where someone's coming from helps you better understand why they're passionate about what they're passionate about, because I believe that there's more that brings us together than tears us apart. I really love to reach out and meet new people, and that's probably why I love this job so very much, because you're always meeting new people and hearing about new experiences. You kind of always need to step outside your comfort zone to grow. One of the things that I did a number of years ago was I went on a mission trip to Mexico. And I remember when they asked me to go on this mission trip, and I remember thinking to myself, you've never camped, you've never slept outside. It was just really stepping outside my comfort zone. We were literally going to build a home from the ground up. I mean, laying the cement slab and everything, and actually hand the keys over to a needy family. And it was really a scary experience for me, really, to walk into. There was no television, there was no phone, there was absolutely no outside distractions. And I remember being able to be completely 100% present in what I was doing and watching these people living in these conditions. They were unimaginable, but yet they were sitting outside, having coffee and laughing every morning. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. You know, they're so happy, and it doesn't take a lot. It just really meant everything to watch that and see how peaceful it was. I think one of the most surprising things to me was not so much what I was giving. It ended up being me to be the recipient of this, and it was probably one of the best things I ever did. Being a woman of faith, I feel like it becomes the center of who I am and who I want to be, you know, whether that's in public service or private life. And I kind of get back to being that servant leader with a servant heart. Having faith keeps you going. Whenever I went through either my darkest times or I'm just looking for answers, I always hearken back to my faith.